Hi, my name is Joanna Whitney. I am an intuitive artist and a student of natural law. And I'm taking a moment away from on conflict and consensus, as I said I would in my last video, to look at the book called A Different Drum by M. Scott Peck. Let's see if I can show the book here. I got it for $5 on Amazon because it's an old book. And the reason I'm doing that is because there's actually a group that's gotten together that wants to learn consensus, but we're sort of stopped. We're reviewing the principles on page 22 to 26 in the consensus book, and we're looking at how to develop them together. Again, I'll just go over them quickly. They are trust, respect, unity of purpose, nonviolence, self-empowerment, cooperation, conflict resolution, commitment to the group, active participation, equal access to power, patience. And then the impediments to consensus are lack of training, external hierarchical structures, and social prejudice. So what we've kind of discovered, I think, is that this group that I'm involved with right now and any other groups that started in reaction to mask mandates and the jab. And many of the people have left because, things seem like they've gone back to normal, even though we all know they haven't. And some people are still involved, and there is an online group. There's many online groups, which unfortunately have turned into a hierarchical tyrannies because they're run by one person or by personalities who like each other and actually haven't developed any kind of principles or guidelines. And they seem to be failing. And then we did finally create a group of people that wants to meet in person who are interested in consensus, as I said. But now I'm looking at this book because it talks about consensus as growing out of community. And so the question is how to create community. And I'm just going to read a few things out of this book. The first thing I'm going to read is from page 71, The True Meaning of Community. In genuine community, there are no sides. It is not always easy, but by the time they reach community, the members have learned how to give up cliques and factions. They have learned how to listen to each other and how not to reject each other. Sometimes consensus in community is reached with miraculous rapidity, but at other times it is arrived at only after lengthy struggle. Just because it is a safe place does not mean community is a place without conflict. It is, however, a place where conflict can be resolved without physical or emotional bloodshed and with wisdom as well as grace. A community is a group that can fight gracefully. That this is so hardly accidental. That this is hardly accidental. For community is an amphitheater where the gladiators have laid down their weapons and their armor, where they have become skilled at listening and understanding, where they respect each other's gifts and accept each other's limitations, where they celebrate their differences and bind each other's wounds, where they are committed to a struggle together rather than against each other. It is a most unusual battleground indeed, but that is also why it is an unusually effective ground for conflict resolution. So how do we get there? That's the question. And why do we get there? Well, my personal reason why to get there is because we've been given this Agenda 2030 deadline of when the globalist Luciferian reptilians have decided that we're going to be in the New World Order. And so I don't know how to prevent that except by creating community, a real community. And out of that would spring things like a barter system, which would be a parallel economy. But, you know, I've been working on that for 6 months now, I believe, 7 months. And it's arduous. And I believe it's arduous because we have not yet developed this strength of community where we truly trust and respect each other, and where we've healed from the trauma that was inflicted on us in 2020 and any other trauma that may have not been resolved. So although I'm still very much interested in continuing to read on conflict and consensus, I think it's more important at the moment to look at what I just read, because, you know, you could ask yourself, like, do you have this in your marriage, you know, or in your partnerships, or even with yourself? I mean, because the solution to me is going to be twofold. First of all, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be studying those principles that I just read at the beginning, and we're going to be looking at them and talking about them together weekly in an in-person meeting. And hopefully we're going to be becoming vulnerable with each other and learning how to listen to each other. We're going to be utilizing some methods like a talking stick and a 5-minute limit, and possibly a facilitator if that's necessary. Although we may be self-facilitating at this point. I think we might be, because we're not struggling over any decisions. We're just learning. And in so doing, we may be able to build that genuine community. We're also praying together. That's, to me, that's very, very important. Whether you believe in it or not, whether you believe in it or not, it doesn't really matter. You're asking a higher intelligence, which obviously governs nature, to assist us in a task, which to me is personally, I believe, like why we are all here right now on this earth. And not just right now, I believe that's why we came to this earth, was to learn how to be self-governing of our individual selves and self-governing in groups. And so this process that we are embarking upon is supported 100% by the universe, by natural law, by the spirit of the universe, the creator. And I believe that the process itself of examining these principles is going to make people more self-reflective with regards to how they behave individually in the world, how they treat one another throughout the day. Like, you know, are you on your phone when you stop to get gas and you go in to pay for gas? Are you talking to somebody else on your phone, or are you directly involved with the person in front of you? That's going to be maybe something that people start to come back to, just by the fact that we're going to be meeting in person for 2 hours once a week. And you know, we are looking at how we've been treating each other. You know, this is not by accident that the underlying vibe out there is kill or be killed. That is by design, by the globalist reptilian Luciferians, or whatever the hell they are. I really don't care what they are, but I'm just going to randomly call them different names, but you'll know what I'm talking about. I mean, they've been floating out these satanic ideologies to us so that we will create chaos, because living as if nature's trying to destroy you is in opposition to natural law. And if you live like that, you're going to create chaos. I mean, in my personal life, if I live as though nature is trying to kill me, then I become paranoid and I also become fearful. And then I start to develop physical abnormalities as a result of that. And I start to get sick. And then I use pharmaceuticals to combat my illness, and that creates more illness. How does that affect my personal life? If I treat my partner as if they're really trying to kill me, then I'm not going to stay in a partnership for very long. If I believe if I believe that nature is really trying to kill me, which is the basis of germ theory, that, that these little bugs from somewhere come into your body, and try to kill you. If I believe that, and then I use man-made products to defend against them, I'm only going to cause havoc in my terrain, my inner terrain. These ideologies have been being floated out by the dark occult for millennia, but they've been being ramped up ever since the Industrial Revolution, ever since television. You can see it everywhere. These ideas they're trying to perpetrate. They're trying to perpetrate that the creator made a mistake and we have the right to choose our gender. And all kinds of other ideologies, which only produce fear, anxiety, and then which makes us susceptible to addictive distractions. And then we're not in the present moment. And then we are not paying attention to our present, the people in front of us, or our partners, or our parents, or our kids. These things become secondary. We become obsessed with distracting ourselves, and then, community falls apart and we create chaos. So if we start to practice principles where we become trustworthy, like if I'm looking at these principles like trust, is trust present in my relationship with my partner? Yes, absolutely. We trust each other 100%. We develop that trust through action, through showing up and doing what we said we were going to do. And that same trust has to be developed in our groups. How? Well, show up. Show up when you say you're going to show up. That's one way. Don't talk about people behind their backs. I mean, it's probably likely that we will be talking about each other behind each other's backs. It's pretty like a normal human thing to do, but you could not use the person's name, or you could only speak about them in a spirit of love and tolerance. You could try to make yourself do that. If you had to talk about somebody because of an issue, you could only pick someone that you knew had the capacity to be closed-mouthed about it and not be a gossip. That's one way to develop trust in a group, is to not talk about each other to everyone else, because it will come out and it will disintegrate and erode the trust in the group. Another way to develop trust might be to not talk about the group. If people are interested in the group, they can come to it. So this is a way to develop community, also make commitments, short-term, small commitments, and then keep your commitments. This is another paragraph I was going to read. I think it's back a few pages here. Let me see if I can find it, or maybe I don't know where it is now. Okay, yeah, page 62. Commitment, the willingness to coexist, is crucial. Sooner or later, somewhere along the line, and preferably sooner, the members of a group in some way must commit themselves to one another if they are to become or stay a community. Exclusivity, the great enemy of community, appears in two forms: excluding the other and excluding yourself. If you conclude under your breath, well, this group just isn't for me, they are too much this or too much that, and I'm just going to quietly pick up my marbles and go home, it would be as destructive to community as it would be to a marriage. Were you to conclude, well, the grass looks greener on the other side of the fence and I'm just going to move on. Community, like marriage, requires that we hang in there when the going gets a little rough. It requires a certain degree of commitment. It is no accident that I don't want to read this, blah, blah. Our individualism must be counterbalanced by commitment. So we are, the individuals, the rebels, but we also have to be able to commit to the group. And this is, I truly believe, what the Creator meant for us by providing us with natural law principles, because we have everything we need to have an amazing tribe, a small tribes, no more than, I believe it's the number is 250 people per tribe. And then we would, if we're self-governing ourselves, like if I'm ruling my own inner monarchy, then I will be much better equipped to deal with the conflict that comes up in a group. Okay, let me see if there's anything else I want to read here today. I'm just going to go back to page 59 for a second. If we are going to use the word meaningfully, the word community meaningfully, we must restrict it to a group of individuals who have learned how to communicate honestly with each other, whose relationships go deeper than their masks of composure, and who have developed some significant commitment to rejoice together, mourn together, and to delight in each other, make others' conditions our own. But what then does such a rare group look like? How does it function? What is a true definition of community? We can define or adequately explain only those things that are smaller than we are. And this is Scott Peck, right? So I'm just reading what he says. I have in my office, for instance, a very handy little electrical space heater. If I were an electrical engineer, I could take it apart and explain to you, define exactly how it works, except for one thing. That is the matter of the cord and the plug that connect it with something called electricity. And there are certain questions about electricity, despite its known physical laws, that even the most advanced electrical engineer cannot answer. That is because electricity is something larger than we are. There are many such things that are larger than we are. God, goodness, love, evil, death, consciousness, for instance. Being so large, they are many faceted, and the best we can do is describe or define one facet at a time. Even so, we never seem quite able to plumb their depths fully. Sooner or later, we inevitably run into a core of mystery. Community is another such phenomenon. Like electricity, it is profoundly lawful. Yet there remains something about it that is inherently mysterious, miraculous, unfathomable. Thus, there is no adequate one-sentence definition of genuine community. Community is something more than the sum of its parts, its individual members. What is this something more? Even to begin to answer that, we enter a realm that is not so much abstract as almost mystical. It is a realm where words are never fully suitable and language itself falls short. The analogy of a gem comes to mind. The seeds of community reside in humanity, a social species. such as a gem originally resides in the earth. But it is not yet a gem, only a potential one. So it is that geologists refer to a gem in the rough simplicity as a stone. A group becomes a community in somewhat the same way that a stone becomes a gem, through a process of cutting and polishing. Once cut and polished, it is something beautiful. But to describe its beauty, the best we can do is to describe its facets. Community, like a gem, is multifaceted, each facet a mere aspect of a whole that defies description. So how do we get that? How do we get that? Well, we're going to find out. And I would assert that it has to do with the individual member's commitment, prayer, and the use of principles as guidelines for how to get along with each other and how to abide by those principles. Because the thing is, what I've noticed recently, especially, is that there's a lot of personalities. And they usually start to revolve around one person, and then that person becomes the dictator of the group. And you're going to either choose personalities or you're going to choose principles. And if you choose a personality, you're choosing a human to be your authority, which is a violation of natural law. No human can handle that. Because what's going to happen, even the most balanced, mature human will get an ego trip from being your leader. So what I would really prefer for myself is that I develop my own leadership qualities within myself, and I use principles, and I learn how to use principles and how to help others learn how to use principles. We learn how to use them together using critical thinking. And the principles all come from the golden rule, which is to do unto others as you would have others do unto you. So all you have to do is ask yourself if each action you're about to commit is something that you would want someone to do to you. So I think it's such an amazing time we're in right now that we're sort of being pressed to the wall and being sort of forced by this inevitable promise by the New World Order that we have 7 years left to develop this community. And I believe personally, I feel in my guts that having a community will be my way out of having to deal with artificial intelligence and the third dimensional reality that the dark Luciferian occult is creating for us. Talk to you next time.